may not look like it because I've only posted 2 videos of League of Legends content on this channel so far, but I've been playing this game for a long time, and I mean a really long time. When I first heard about the game, everyone was ranting and raving about the addition of Volibear, and when I joined, this new champion Nautilus had just been added to the lineup. That was on Valentine's Day of 2012, and you can insert whatever joke you want about being forever single here, because if me creating a League of Legends account on the day of love back then wasn't an indicator of how interested in dating I was in dating, I don't know what was. Also, I was in middle school at the time, so there's that. League would then go on to hack my sleep schedule and become one of my go-to games for the next few years to come, only to be weekly competed with by the likes of Terraria, which I had purchased in August of 2011, and RuneScape, which I had been playing on and off for years running. All of these games I played mostly because it was my way of socially interacting with my friends at the time, and League was the sort of height of these social interactions. My group of friends and I would take a bi-monthly walk to the local internet cafe, pay for their standard 4-hour rate, play some games of League, and then walk home afterwards. To my parents, that was the modern-day 13-year-old equivalent of going to a board game cafe and playing board games with friends. I used that definition against them as a way to convince them that it was fine because, for me, it was just a way to procrastinate doing my homework. The friends were tertiary, in a way. And I'm just going to cut in here and say that I'm not a compulsive liar or a sociopath who uses friends for his own benefit. I was and still am a terrible procrastinator who just wanted to live the kid's life of having fun with friends forever and lied to get myself to that position through League of Legends. The game is actually much more enjoyable to play with a group of friends because if you fuck up, you all fuck up together and have a laugh about it later. I'm pretty sure I convinced nobody there, but let's go with that. So why are people quitting League of Legends, and what does my story have to do with any of it? Well, let me get around to that. On March 20th of 2018, popular League streamer and former TSM Reserve jungle player Nightblue3 announced on Twitter that he was officially quitting League after playing the game for 8 years because he felt that it was time to change things up. Magikarp Used Fly, a League YouTuber who gained his popularity from actual Champion Spotlight series, said in a video that he would no longer continue the immensely popular series as it was having some severely negative impacts on his social life. Anklespankin, known for his full game commentary series, has mentioned in several videos how playing League nowadays has been tough, and in some of his non-League related videos he's mentioned how he wants to put out other content aside from League of Legends. Bricky Orchid 8, or just Bricky nowadays, is a YouTuber well known for his So You Want a Main series, similar to Magikarp's videos but with less satire, said on stream that
the problem with League right now is that one person cannot win you a game. They cannot carry you. But one person can lose you the game.
And as such, is one of the main reasons as to why he doesn't play League nearly as much nowadays. He even reiterated this point in one of his most recent videos simply titled, "What is the deal with League?" The list of people goes on, and I have a couple of theories as to why this is. Most of the more popular people whom have chosen to go public about their choice to move away from the game have simply grown out of the game. That's theory number 1. Nightblue3, Anklespankin, and Bricky have all been playing League at least since the inception of their channels, and over time the game for them has lost its luster. This is the case that I sympathize with the most personally. While RuneScape was a fantastic game, rest in peace classic RuneScape, I was getting bored of the game and ended up dropping it once I started playing League. I had been playing RuneScape for about 3 or 4 years at that point, and while I didn't really need to change, I decided at that point in time to shift my game interests elsewhere. RuneScape inherently wasn't a bad game, and I was no longer interested in grinding for hours on end to get my magic rating up or whatever I chose to mess around with when I logged in to play. The same goes for me with League to an extent. Simply put, the game no longer interests me because I'm not interested in playing the same old game that I've been playing for 6 years now. But Fox, you must say, you're ignoring the fact that they're changing the game weekly and that Riot is doing their best to release new content for the game. Well, it doesn't matter to me if they're releasing new content or not, the point of the gameplay still remains. Whether or not we get a rework on Irelia, another skin for Misfortune, or whether or not they release a new rune for my favorite class as champion, the fact still remains that I don't want to play a real-time strategy game that I can't get out of for huge chunks of time at a time. Simply put, part of the reason that the game no longer interests me is because I feel like I've grown out of it. The game is so centered around playing as many tanks as you can fit into a team comp that playing a carry or bruiser style champion seems worthless. Point number 2. Now, this is the point that may sound like I'm complaining, so I'm going to make a few things clear. First off, I understand that overbalancing a bruiser makes them overpowered and not fun to play against. 2, I also understand that there are champions that are not supposed to be played in certain ways. For example, Crit Terror Top may sound like a good idea, but it's fucking terrible. Take my word for it. 3, this is also the point that you could argue, but Fox, you're complaining about an in-game mechanic. That's like complaining about the wall jump mechanic in Ori and the Blind Forest. Got it? Good. The funny thing about this is that it wasn't always like this in League, and that the only changes that Riot seems to make to the champions, aside from the new Conqueror rune, is to buff the strength of tanks and AD carries. Playing anything else doesn't matter because at the end of the game, your 9-2 Katarina won't do shit in teamfights against that 0-5 Maokai. The problem I have with this is that it feels like the tanks don't have to earn their win. They simply win by being unkillable, dealing more base damage than is necessary, and making way for their brain-dead ADC to win them every teamfight. Let me put it this way. How often do you see a Jace or Jax top lane go 0-2 in lane early on and still end up winning the game? They may have died because they're dumbasses, but after that, they're through, no matter how safe they play it. Alternatively, you can play any tank top lane, and even if you were to go 0-2 in lane early on, you can still come back, be a relevant force late game, and somehow still contend with everyone else in damage. It's unfair because it feels like tanks don't have to earn their victories, while carries have to go an extra 3 miles to make sure that they're doing everything right to win a game. To make this even more clear, here are my top champions in rank this season. I played Karma with the tank build, while Singed, Nasus, Blitzcrank, and Munda are also all tanks, of which I earned reasonable win rates with. The only reason I was able to win my games with Jax was by playing a tank build where my only damage was the Trinity Force and the rest was the tank build similar to what you'd see on Nasus. On the end of that graph, you'll also see Kayle with a 44% win rate. Now, maybe I'm just shit at the game, but I feel like this goes to show that an immobile carry champion cannot win you games nearly as often as a tank can. When I was playing Kayle, I'd have to earn my victories or hope that my team didn't fall apart or get an early lead in the game and still lose the late game because Kayle is an easy target for 3 tanks on the enemy team loaded with resistances and CC. Point number 3. The game is too competitive and less fun to play. The tank meta has also brought forth the highly competitive side in people, and myself included. Everyone expects to be given a fair chance at winning a game, and it's hard to feel competitive when you can't get away from years of chain CC that make you see a green screen for the majority of the game. This doesn't make people feel less competitive, but rather that they have to play something that's boring and overbalanced in order to feel like they're actually competing. You can take all these champions that generally don't scale with tank items and toss them in the rubbish because they're not a guaranteed win. And as a result, instead of asking myself in lane, alright, so how do I outplay this champion? It's, can I kill this champion before they get to the late game where I can't kill them? If the answer to the second question is no, then expect all of the highly competitive people to start flaming you for not being able to snowball an early lead against something that's unkillable. Since this is the case, it's just impossible to pick something fun and challenging to play like Jace and still expect to win against a tank. Point number 4. The community just gets angrier and less fun to be around with each passing year. I don't know what it was, but it seemed like within the last couple of years that everyone seemed to have the mindset that everyone else should have challenger tier mechanics even though we're only in silver. The text chat became less of a way to relay information and instead a way to make someone else feel like shit for messing up in a video game, to the point where I would immediately full mute everyone before the game started. Funnily enough, doing that helped me reach the highest rank in League that I've ever gotten, and it was mostly because I tended to tilt a lot less easily. Open source voice chat programs like Discord made this even worse, and even though I use it sparingly with League of Legends, a handful of the individuals whom I played with were fairly toxic, depressed, and angry people. I'm not proud to admit that I was one of these toxic, angry, and heavily depressed people, but that's because I realized that I was starting to imitate the people that I spent all my time with, as you do. There were people whom I was in voice chat with who would scream profanities at the top of their lungs when they died to something that their competitive self felt was unfair. My immediate thought after hearing someone act like this was, man, what a fucking loser getting upset at a video game for no reason, until I realized that I too was one of those losers who got upset at video games for no reason. This is the largest contributor as to why I left the game because, like a shitty significant other, I didn't really need that garbage in my life. Even though the game holds several cherished memories from my younger teenage years, most of my friends have since moved on from the game, and I think it's about time that I grew up and left it behind, which is the main reason as to why I believe that people are starting to leave the game now. That's all I have to say. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day, night, or space cycle, depending on when and where you watch this video, and I'll see you on the flip side. Goodbye.